What do you think of when you hear the word dragon? Do you think of these terrible, fearsome beasts that seem bent on destroying? Or do you think of these wise, benevolent creatures who seem to want to benefit society and offer wisdom and advice? Whether you see the good or the bad, the truth of the matter is dragons have affected many ancient world societies and continue to affect cultures today. I have a personal interest in these creatures, and this interest has only been excited by the fact that dragons will show up in almost every ancient culture that exists. You too can better understand the symbol of their dragon if you take the time to kind of delve into them and see what they're all about. Why are they idolized the way they are? Why are they used the way they are? See, these are some of the things you can know. The most common dragons are found in the Asian and European histories. However, dragons have also influenced cultures in ancient America, including the Nephites and Lamanites. We will discuss some of these as we go through. Now, if you thought of an evil dragon or this menacing creature, you probably thought of something that's called the Western dragon or the European dragon. It kind of looks a little like this. It's got wings and a dinosaur-like body. It has claws on both its legs and its feet, or on its arms and its legs. It's got a long neck with horns on its head and razor-sharp teeth. Now this dragon can breathe fire and it can fly. That's your typical Western dragon. It was used to represent evil and destruction. According to history, the Western dragon has been used to depict evil, such as in the Bible and Revelations. The dragon is used to represent Satan, where it talks about how the dragon warred with Michael and his angels. The dragon is referring directly to Satan. This is the evil European-influenced dragon. These evil dragons represented something that was despicable or something that was meant to be destroyed. Now, according to legend, dragons inhabited the European continent from pre-Christian times to the late 17th century. Dragons were blamed for any natural disaster that happened, including plagues, famine, fire, floods, you name it. It was a dragon's fault. Only the bravest of knights and the most holy and intelligent of holy men or clergymen would even dare face a dragon. Most legends would include a knight or a holy man or a saint coming to rescue a princess or a maiden from the grasp of a dragon. One such legend is told of St. George and his dragon. According to legend, there was a pagan town in the 14th century that was being terrorized by a dragon. The people, in an effort to subdue the dragon, would offer it sacrifices, kind of like, people would sacrifice to a god. They would sacrifice to this dragon to appease it. At first they did animal sacrifices, but this did not appease the dragon. Then they tried offering human sacrifices. Ultimately, it came to the point where they were going to offer the princess as a sacrifice to this dragon, so the dragon would leave this town alone. In rides St. George of England. He came in the nick of time, and he slew the dragon and saved the princess. This is your typical dragon story, but it's a good representation of what the people of Europe thought of dragons. And this story particularly is used to illustrate the triumph of Christianity over paganism in European history. Again, a pagan town worshipping dragons. In comes St. George, clergyman, holy man, a knight, and he destroys the dragon. Now that's just a kind of a brief look into what European dragons are. The other most common type of dragon is the Asian dragon or the Eastern dragon. I don't unfortunately have a model for this, but if you can kind of think of Mushu from Mulan, that is a fair representation of what an Eastern dragon is. Well, much bigger, of course, than Mushu was, but he was travel size for convenience. Now, an Eastern dragon will have a snake-like body. They'll have a lion-like face, and they'll have kind of whiskers on their muzzle to represent wisdom and knowledge. These dragons can also breathe fire and fly, like their Western counterparts, but they don't need wings to fly. They just kind of swim through the air in kind of a magical kind of way. If you go to China today, they still very much believe in dragons and very much respect and honor these dragons. Asian dragons are a symbol of good, of wisdom, good luck, and royalty. In fact, in some Asian cultures, they have specific rules for how you can wear dragons on clothing. For example, a common man can only wear dragons on his clothing that have 3 claws. Any more than that, and he's outside of his standard and can be severely punished. A nobleman or a man of high ranking can wear dragon clothing with a dragon with 4 claws. Only the emperor can wear clothing with dragons depicted with 5 claws. That's reserved for him. And in fact, in China and some of the other Asian cultures, their legend says that their emperors are descendants of dragons, and the emperors and rulers sometimes are believed to be able to turn into dragons at will and go about their business. Today in China, the Chinese people will still use dragon claws and dragon bones and dragon teeth in medicine. They believe that these bones and teeth have special healing powers. Now, if we were to go today, if someone from America were to go to these so-called dragon sites and collect dragon bones, they would say, oh, these aren't dragon bones, these are dinosaur bones. But you couldn't convince a Chinese man of that. They're definitely dragon bones. And that's kind of a brief history into what the Asian or Eastern dragon is and how they're revered. Now, the Americans, like I said, or the American continents, the ancient American cultures had their dragons too, including the Nephites and the Lamanites. If you look in Mosiah chapter 20, you'll read of a story of a battle between the Nephites and the Lamanites. The Lamanites come in and they outnumber the Nephites 2-1. But in verse 11 it says, "But the Nephites fought for their lives and for their wives and for their children. Therefore they exerted themselves, and like dragons did they fight." Now the Nephites ended up winning this battle. And it's very, very interesting that the word dragon is used to describe how they fought. Now, when you think of a dragon, these are very, very fierce creatures. They're almost impossible to defeat. And so that's what these Nephites were fighting like. They were fighting with all the energy of their hearts, with all the courage, with all the passion they could, and they could not be defeated. And so the only word that the author could use to accurately describe this is dragons, which to me leads me to believe that the dragon was a very important figure in the Nephite culture as well. Now later in Alma, we read of a story between the Nephites and the Lamanites, and the Nephites come prepared to battle with their armor and their weapons, and they're ready to go. And the Lamanites, all they have is their weapons. They have no form of armor in any way. But the scripture says that the Lamanites fought like dragons, and because they fought like dragons, the armor that the Nephites had proved to be no advantage. It put them on equal grounds. So this again shows how powerful the dragon symbol is and how important it was in these ancient cultures. Even the Aztec and Mayan cultures had dragons. Just to name a few, Quetzalcoatl was a dragon in Aztec culture that provided life and goodness. But he eventually left the Aztec people because they would not change their warring ways. Another dragon in Aztec culture is called Coatlicue. And Coatlicue was a hydra that symbolized nature. And then there were small dragons called fire serpents, or their name was called Tsiucoatl. And these were little, again, fire serpents that were a big part of the Aztec culture. And even today, we see many dragons in culture. We see them in movies and in television and video games. Unfortunately, you'll see a dragon like this, and it's not depicted as evil. It's depicted as something good. So today, our dragons don't necessarily follow their ancient counterparts, but dragons still influence cultures today. They come in all shapes and sizes, but the two most common ones are the Eastern dragon and the Western dragon of Europe and Asia. And now that you know a little bit about dragons and their significance in history, you can understand the symbols used. And you you can understand the traits in history. Thank you.